All right, folks, welcome. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat. President Trump today in New York at the Economic Club of New York. He's set to deliver a speech very soon where he's going to be talking about the economy. He's going to be talking about jobs. He's going to be talking about Wall Street and all the records that Wall Street has been breaking in the last few weeks. Also, 401ks going through the roof, folks. So the economy is doing very, very well. Jobs are up. Unemployment is down for everyone all across the board, folks. Lowest unemployment in African American history, lowest unemployment in Asian history, Latino history, or Hispanic. And in 70 years, women unemployment is at its lowest point. Also, today at the Supreme Court, they are doing oral arguments for DACA. So DACA is finally at the Supreme Court after so many times being put down to the lower courts. Today, finally, the Supreme Court has taken on DACA, and the first phase of it, which is oral arguments, is going on right now at the Supreme Court. The court has all of the justices present. As you guys probably known, Clarence Thomas was out for a little while because he was sick, but now he's back in full health and ready to go. So all of the justices are present at the oral arguments for DACA. Right outside the Supreme Court, there are protesters in support of DACA, but everyone knows that DACA is 100% illegal. So most definitely the Supreme Court will not side with DACA. But President Trump earlier today, he wrote a tweet. Let me find it here real quick. President Trump talked about DACA just this morning. Here, let me put the music a little bit lower. Here we go. All right. So President Trump earlier today said that many of the people in DACA, no longer very young, are far from angels. Some are very tough, hardened criminals. It says President Obama said himself that he had no legal right to sign the order, but he will sign it anyways. If Supreme Court remedies with overturn, a deal will be made with the Democrats for them to stay. Now, President Trump hasn't really talked much about what his deal with the Democrats will be in regards to Dreamers. Now, like President Trump said, many of those so-called Dreamers are not like really young. They're not teenagers. They're mostly in their late 20s, early 30s. So by no means are these some young kids, how they pass them off to be. And President Trump says that he will make a deal with the Democrats for Dreamers if the high court overturns it. So we're going to have to see what's going to happen within the next few days. But the final verdict from the Supreme Court won't come most likely until the beginning or maybe even the middle of 2020. Right now, they're just in oral arguments for DACA. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. But we have all that breaking news, headlines, and all that good stuff at our website, goldenstatetimes.com. Again, we do have a website. It's www.goldenstatetimes.com. So if you guys are sick and tired of Drudge and Drudge going extremely left, turning on the president, turning on his base, and turning on his readers, then we encourage you to go and check out goldenstatetimes.com for all headlines, news, videos, and everything else in between. I'll be switching over in just a few moments, folks, so make sure you guys please share this live stream on social media. Make sure you click the thumbs up button. And also, if you share the stream on Facebook or on Twitter, we'll give you guys a quick shout out as a thank you for your support. So if you want to get a shout out on over the microphone, then please share the live stream on Facebook or on Twitter. Thank you so much. And like I said, I'll switch it over in just a few moments. I'm getting everything ready to go, folks. I always try to make the best experience here for our viewers. So just give me a few minutes and we'll switch over.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have another big record stock market day, another record in the stock market in the history of our country, which to me means jobs and a lot of other things. We're doing really well, and just wanted to let you know, I think it's the 119th day that we've set a record, so that's good stuff. So good afternoon, and thank you all for being here as we celebrate a profoundly historic milestone and a truly momentous achievement. Thanks to many of the people here today, my administration and Republicans in Congress have now confirmed more than 150 federal judges, and to be honest with you, it's substantially higher right now than that, Mitch. It's about 159, and we should have within the next short period of time, like 2 months, we should have about 182 federal judges. How's that? Good? Good? And I say often, percentage-wise, you'll never beat one man. We know who that is, right? George Washington, 100%. But in terms of, I'd like to say quality and quantity, we are going to be, I think, just about number one by the time we finish, number one of any president, any administration. So I want to thank all of you for the incredible job you've done. That's really fantastic. Thank you very much. That's a big statement. And they will uphold our Constitution as written. These distinguished men and women are some of the most gifted scholars, respected jurists, and finest legal minds ever placed on the federal bench. Together, we're restoring American freedom, defending American justice, preserving the extraordinary vision of our founding fathers. We're delighted to be joined on this special occasion by Vice President Mike Pence. Thank you, Mike, very much. Thank you, Mike. And Attorney General Bill Barr. Thank you, Bill. I want to thank some real friends of mine, too, and warriors. I have to say, warriors. We have a lot of great warriors in our party, and it's, I think it's necessary, frankly, to be a warrior. If you're not, you got a problem, right? But I want to thank Chairman Lindsey Graham. Lindsey, thank you very much. Great. A very special man. This man is so popular in his state, I don't even think they're going to run anybody against him anymore. They've given that up. Chuck Grassley, right, Chuck? And also with us are Senator John Cornyn. I looked at your polls. Nobody's beating you, John. Nobody. And you don't have to worry about Beto anymore, that's for sure. From Texas. He doesn't like guns, religion, or oil. He knocked out all three categories. Somehow in Texas that won't work. I don't think that works anywhere, Josh. What do you think? That doesn't work anywhere. Good. John Cornyn, Mike Lee. Mike, thank you very much. Senator Ted Cruz, also Texas. Thank you, Senator. Thanks, Ted. Senator Tom Tillis. Tom, thank you very much. Senator Ben Sasse. Ben, great to have you, Ben. And Senator Marsha Blackburn. Marsha, thank you. Great job you're doing. And Josh Hawley, our young star. He's a young star. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Great job, everybody. In addition, the nation owes an immense debt of gratitude to a man whose leadership has been instrumental to our success. It's so important to him, and he always mentions it, number one point. I've always heard, actually, that when you become president, the most important thing you can do is federal judges. They say Supreme Court judges, but we have them too, but federal judges. And based on that, I think there's nobody that's done a better job ever than Senator Mitch McConnell. Stand up, Mitch. Stand up. Come on. Stand up. I always get up and I talk about the economy, the economy. I'm always talking. They never write about it, but that's okay. The people get it. But Mitch will then follow me. He'll talk about judges, always. And it's great what you've done, incredible. The impact is truly amazing. Thank you very much. We also, as you know, we have 2 great Supreme Court judges. So that's in addition to the what will be 182 judges. And then we go by what I call normalization after you get to 182. But our Supreme Court judges are great gentlemen. It was so easy to get them confirmed, right? One in particular, nobody has ever had to go through that, and I have great respect for both of them, so we appreciate it, Mitch. Great job. Generations from now, Americans will know that Mitch McConnell helped save the constitutional rule of law in America. It's true. It's for a long time. I also want to thank Pat Cipollone and his phenomenal team at the White House Counsel's Office, along with our Office of Legal Policy. Where's Pat? Where's Pat? Stand up, Pat. Come on. He's the strong, silent type. Strong, he's very strong, silent. Great job you've done. Very great. I always wanted to be the strong, silent type, but it never worked out for me, Lindsay. Never worked out. I want to be, but it doesn't seem to work that way. But the Office of Legal Policy at the Department of Justice and the many friends and legal luminaries who have supported all of those nominees, and to all of the rest of you in the room, some incredible people in this room, great friends. In their wisdom and genius, the framers of the Constitution separated government power into 3 branches. Congress writes the laws, the executive enforces the law, and the judicial branch provides an impartial interpretation of the laws that applies to any case before them. This system was designed to protect citizens against the unjust concentration of governmental power. And I do say I think we're going through a very interesting time right now, if you must know, more interesting than at most other times. When judges assume the role of a legislature, the rights of all citizens are threatened. The great English jurist William Blackstone warned that if the judicial power were joined with the legislative, then life, liberty, and property would be in the hands of arbitrary judges whose decisions would be then regulated only by their opinion and not by any fundamental principles of law. In other words, the impartial and objective judge who is a faithful servant of the law is essential to the survival of American liberty. So it's really something. It's really something that you've all done. This is such a big moment in our history. And I think what I'm going to do is, as we go along, I'm going to ask a couple of you to say a few words, if that's okay. Because I think it's appropriate. It wasn't in the schedule, but I think it's very appropriate to have a few speak. You have to promise it's going to be very quick and short because the media won't stand for anything else. But I would like to get your views. I think it would be very interesting for all of us. In recent decades, our system has been under relentless attack by the left-wing activists who want to take the powers of the elected branches and give that power to unelected federal judges. They want to impose by judicial decree what they failed to win at the ballot box. Does that sound familiar to anybody? That's really familiar. When judges write policy instead of applying the law, they impose sweeping changes on millions of Americans without the benefit of legislative debate, public rulemaking, or the consent of the governed. As a result, these highly political rulings inflict painful damage on our security, society, and economy, imposing unworkable edicts on businesses, workers, families, and law enforcement really alike. They give many, many bad nights to many, many people, including presidents, But we power through it. We have no choice. I will do everything in my power to halt judicial activism and to ensure the law is upheld equally fairly and without political prejudice for all of our citizens. So I'd like to, before going any further, I'd like to maybe start off, I think it would be appropriate if we start off with Mitch to just say a couple of words and how he feels about where we are and what we're doing. And we're going to go through a couple of our friends, if you don't mind. And to me, it'll be very interesting. Mitch McConnell, thanks. Good.
Well, Mr. President, I'm reminded of election night when I realized that not only had you won, but we had taken the House, we had held the Senate, and this was going to be one of those unusual periods where Republicans had all three branches. To show you how unusual that is, you go back 100 years, only about 20 of the last 100 years has our party had all three. And we got a chance to set the agenda, an opportunity to move the ball in the right direction. What's the most important thing? Clearly, it was the Supreme Court. You had been helped enormously by a decision that I made, and these guys backed me up, not to let President Obama fill that Scalia vacancy on the way out the door. And boy, you didn't blow it. Neil Gorsuch is an all-star, isn't he? And the president alluded to that easy confirmation we had with Brett Kavanaugh. You made a great choice, Mr. President. And it's not just that. The circuit courts, where 99% of litigation stops, are full of bright, young men and women who believe in the quaint notion that maybe the job of a judge is to follow the law. And so, Mr. President, this is one of the many ways you're helping to make America great again. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mitch. You know, it is true, when I first came to office, because of what I said before, that I've always heard how important it is, the choice of judges and the number of judges. And in my first day, I said to one of our assistants, how many judges do I have to pick? How many are there? And I figured I'd hear none or one, maybe two. They said, sir, you have 142. I said, no. Tell me truth. I want the truth. That was it. And I say, thank you, President Obama, very much. But it was 142 empty slots, and nobody can believe that. And I couldn't believe it and didn't believe it, but now I believe it, because now we've got so many approved, and we're going to hit that magic number. And then it's going to be a lot more from there, because you do have a lot of, through normalization, leaving and other reasons, retiring. I never want to mention the D word, the death word. I won't mention death, but that happens too. But we're going to be picking up a lot. A man that I have a lot of respect for, and everybody does in the Senate, Chuck Grassley. Come up and say a couple of words, Chuck. Come on up here.
Now, like I tell my colleagues, if I yell, I'm not mad at you. Let me say what set the stage for this before any of us had anything to do with this. You ran on a platform that no other president has run on to tell the type of people that you were going to put on the Supreme Court. And named 20 or 25 people, and that list is still out there. And it's made up of just the kind of people that Mitch McConnell's talked about, you've talked about, people that are constitutionalists. And you kept your word. And 20% of the people voted for you based on the proposition of the kind of people you were going to put on the Supreme Court. So a lot of candidates for any office run on a platform, but they don't stand on that platform. And I think what's important about not only the judges that you have appointed along the lines of what you promised the people you're going to appoint, but also a lot of other issues that you stand for. And the people of this country ought to be complimented that we have a president that said he was going to run on a platform, and he stands on that platform, and you've particularly done it for judges.
He's great. Thank you. You know, he's got this fierce way about him. He's tough even when he's trying to be nice, like now he's. But I heard that voice. I shouldn't say this, but he looked during one of the big events in the United States Senate. He looked at a guy named Comey. He said, "Did you leak?" And he was being nice. And Comey choked. He didn't know what to say. He was so frightened of this guy. He choked. I want him to start looking that stuff up, by the way, please. Please look it up. A lot of choke there. Another man who's been incredible, and he's been a friend of mine for a long time. We actually competed against each other. He wasn't at all nice during the campaign. And who would have thought we would have become good friends, right? Who would have thought? But we did. And I could say the same for Ted, right? Well, we were good friends and then really bad.
All right, folks. So we have footage from inside the Economic Club of New York where President Trump is set to deliver his speech in just a few moments. We're going to be switching over. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than other times for us to get footage. It just depends on when they allow and they give the green light and the thumbs up that people are allowed to start streaming or to start broadcasting, like they call it. But yeah, so we have footage from inside the venue. So if you guys can please share this live stream on social media. If you already shared it, thank you so much for your support. You guys help us immensely by getting us on search. Believe it or not, that's the only way that we show up on search. Google search, YouTube search, engines from Facebook and Twitter and Reddit and all that stuff. The only way we come up on there, the only way that we ever show up is by Patriots sharing the live stream and their post coming up on search. Because if we don't have any Patriots sharing our live streams, we will never come up. Nobody would ever know we're streaming or we're broadcasting or we're covering the President of the United States fairly, by the way. We will never come up. We got completely scrubbed off of search on every single one of the search engines, both social media and websites. So thank you so much to everyone that shares our live streams on a daily basis, because you guys keep us on the air by us coming up on search. All right, so we're going to be giving out shout outs to everyone that is sharing the live stream on Twitter and on Facebook. So let's see. Let's start off first on Twitter and see what's going on with that. Then we will move on to Facebook. So we're going to be starting off here with DTP58. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. By the way, this is live footage that you have on your screen right now. So let me just let me fix the lower third real quick, and then we'll continue. We'll continue with the shout outs here. Once again, thank you so much to everyone that is sharing the live stream, already shared it. Thank you so much for your support. You guys help us out so much. So let's see here. Okay, so I think we are good. All right, here we go. So I think we are good now. All right, so we're going to start off with DTP58. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. Thank you so much to Ulrich Hubert. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. We also have Cowboy Roy. Thank you so much. Haven't seen you in a while. Thank you so much, Cowboy Roy, for your support and sharing the live stream. Beth Claus, thank you so much for your support sharing the live stream. We got Edward Carpenter. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. Wolf Duck 2, thank you so much for sharing the stream on social media. We also have here, we have Robin Sullivan. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. Antonio, thank you so much, Antonio, for your continued support in sharing the live stream. All right, let's see. Who else do we have on here, folks? We have Jody. Thank you so much, Jody, for your support in sharing the live stream. Once again, Audrey, thank you so much for your continued support, Audrey. You help us out a lot, along with all the Patriots that are sharing the stream. So thank you so much for that. All right, so who else do we have on here, folks? We have Darlene. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. That kind of rhymed. Thank you so much for your support. Let's see, who else do we have on here, folks? We're searching. All right, Patricia No Name, thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. We're searching, and we see Dio Toner. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. We also have Still Awake NZ. Thank you so much for sharing the stream on social media. And I think, oh, here we go. Sarah Jane, thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. And we also have Cheryl Abi, or Abe. I apologize if I said that wrong. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Let's see, who else do we have on here? We have Julia Shake. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. And we also have Mike Gruel. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. And we also have Daydreamer. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. And PJ Campbell, thank you so much for sharing the stream on social media. We also have Joanne Grace. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. And we have Jeanette. Thank you so much, Jeanette. And Audria Dark. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. We got Nancy Driscoll. And also Gloria Shayer Cruz. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. Ava, thank you so much, Ava, for your support in sharing the live stream. Mayor Tawasha and Valerie Sexton, thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. UFO Pirate 17, thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Also, Rexer P, thank you so much for sharing the stream. And Nene 31, thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. You guys are amazing, folks. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. All right. So we'll refresh, and then we'll give more shout outs in just a few moments. Thank you so much for choosing Golden State Times as your stream of choice. And President Trump should be coming out very, very soon.
They said, when
All right, folks, I also like to give a big thank you to Cannabis Cuisine. And Cannabis Cuisine says, thank you, GST. You are a true patriot. Thank you so much for those kind words, Cannabis Cuisine. And thank you so much for your continued support here at Golden State Times. It means a lot to us. We are a very small company from the great state of California, where there's tons of patriots that support the president and support the America First agenda, folks. Don't get fooled. California supports Trump. It's just that we have really, really bad politicians, that are running the state, but do not believe what they say, that California is lost. California loves Trump. There's tons of Trump supporters and America First supporters here in the great state of California. But thank you so much for your support. So we are going to be giving shout outs in just a few moments. So if you haven't yet, please share the live stream on social media and give this live stream a thumbs up. Thank you so much. All right, folks, so we're going to be giving shout outs to everyone that is sharing the live stream on social media as a thank you for your support. Let's start off here on Twitter and let's see what's going on. All right, so we have Joseph Price. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. Let's see, who else do we have, folks? We have... Here we go. Okay, so we have Julia Luna. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Also, Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing the stream. We got Robert Trujillo. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. We have Lady of the Kingdom. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. Let's see, who else do we have on here, folks? We have Worldwide Awakening. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. We have David Seaton. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. We have Luz M. Montero. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. New World Sun. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. We also have Tommy Rollinson. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. And we have Hey John Johnson and Bevlin. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. We also have Trip. Thank you so much, Trip, for your support in sharing the live stream. All right, so let's see. Who else do we have on here, folks? We have Patriot 19. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. So I guess my voice was sounding weird because I was too far from the microphone. I hope it sounds a lot better now. All right. So the Spider-Man Me, thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. Here we go. Now it sounds good. It was weird. It sounded like I was like saying some words, but then other words I wasn't really, you can't really hear them. I don't know. Something weird's going on with this microphone. Made in China, folks. Made in China. Even if it is expensive, it's still made in China. Everything made in China is garbage. All right. Swamp Fox of the Carolinas. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. You know what I don't understand is how is it that a microphone that, let's say it's, I don't know, $80 is made in China, but then another microphone that is also made in China is $400, $500, $600. They still are made in China. Still shit. They're still crap, But that's how it is. Even a microphone is expensive, it still sounds like crap because it was made in China. That's the only reason. All right, folks. So thank you so much to Steven and to YT Tack. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. We also have Stanley Sullivan. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. And we have Pamela Roberts. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. We have Fred. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. And we also have Hitchhiker. Thank you so much, Hitchhiker, for your support in sharing the live stream. Regular Guy and Bree0964. Thank you so much for sharing for the live stream. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Bry. I apologize. Not Bree. It's Bry. As in Brian. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. Loretta Patriot. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. We also have Ant Hill Anons. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. I Stand With Flynn. Thank you so much for sharing the stream on social media. QAnon Anon. Thank you so much for sharing the stream. Connie. Thank you so much, Connie, for your continued support in sharing the live stream. We also have DTP58. All right, so everyone that is sharing the live stream on social media up to this point, we have given them a shout out. So thank you for your support. As you guys can see, the seal, the presidential seal, is on the podium. So President Trump is coming out very, very soon. So if you just joined us right now or just a few minutes ago, if you share the live stream on social media, we'll give you guys a quick shout out as a thank you for your support. And also, by sharing the stream, not only do you help President Trump's message get amplified, but you help out Golden State Times at the same time, and it's 100% free. So if you like to help out the channel, sharing this live stream and giving it a thumbs up is the best way to do it. Also, thank you so much to everyone that is supporting us through Super Chat and also through membership. So if new members have joined, welcome.
everyone. I'm Barbara Van Allen, President of the Economic Club of New York. I'm honored to preside at today's... Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I'm Barbara Van Allen, President of the Economic Club of New York. I'm honored to preside at today's event. Currently in our 112th year, the Economic Club of New York is the nation's leading nonpartisan forum for discussions on economic, social, and political issues. More than 1,000 prominent guest speakers have appeared before the club over the last century and have established a very strong tradition of excellence. I would like to take a moment to recognize those of our 297 members of the Centennial Society attending today in the front of the room, as their contributions continue to be the financial backbone for the club. They actually enable us to offer our wonderful, diverse programming now and into the future. We'd also like to welcome students joining us today from Columbia Business School and Harvard Business School. In addition, we have attending members of the 2019 class of ECNY Fellows, a select cohort of next-generation thought leaders sponsored by members of the club for our year-long program. Welcome to all of you. It is both an honor and a privilege for me to welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. President Trump built on his success in private life when he entered into politics and public service. He's a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School of Finance and followed in his father's footsteps into the world of real estate development, making his mark in this great city. He is also the author of 14 bestsellers, and his first book, The Art of the Deal, is considered a business classic. Mr. Trump announced his candidacy for president June 2015, and 1 year later became the Republican nominee, clearing the field of 17 Republican candidates during those primaries, and won the presidency in his first run ever for political office. Following the president's address, we will have questions and answers from two distinguished questioners. As a reminder to everyone, this conversation is on the record. It is being carried live. So if everyone could please turn their phones to silent. Mr. President, the podium is yours, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Barbara. It's so sad that this is live. She said it's live. Well, it's always live. There's always somebody with a phone. It becomes live. Ask a lot of politicians that are no longer in politics. I want to thank Marie-José Gravis for your incredible leadership of the club. It's an honor to be here. It is wonderful also to be back in New York with so many friends and distinguished leaders, business and finance, academia, and I have to add, in real estate. All my real estate friends are here. I'm especially grateful for and to your longtime club members, because it's a club with a tremendous reputation and somebody doing an absolutely incredible job as director of the National Economic Council, a friend of mine who I got on. I've been hearing this voice for 35 years. It's driving me crazy. Larry Kudlow. Always calm, always cool, and he's just Larry. And he's terrific, I'll tell you that. 3 years ago, I came to speak before this storied forum as a candidate for president. And at that time, America was stuck in a failed recovery and saddled with a bleak economic future, and it was bleak. Under the last administration, nearly 200,000 manufacturing jobs had been lost. Almost 5 million more Americans had left the labor force, and jobs were not exactly what you would call plentiful. and 10 million people had been added to the food stamp rolls. In 2016, the Department of Labor predicted that Americans would continue dropping out of the workforce in record numbers. They predicted and projected a decade of sluggish growth, and they expected unemployment over 5%, and really 6, 7, and even in some cases 8% for years to come. The so-called experts said the Americans had no choice but to accept stagnation, decay, and a shrinking middle class as the new normal. That was said all the time. In short, the American people were told to sit back and accept a slow, inevitable decline. But I never believed for one moment that our magnificent nation was destined for a diminished future. I knew that our destiny was in our own hands, that we could choose to reject a future of America and really look at a future of American decline unacceptable, and to build a future of American dominance, which is what I wanted. It couldn't be any other way, or I would have never done this. I refused to accept that Americans had to lower their expectations or give up on their dreams. America is the single greatest country in the world, and I knew that working together, we could make it even greater. In 2016, I stood before you, supremely confident in what our people could achieve if government stopped punishing American workers and started promoting American workers and American companies. Our middle class was being crushed under the weight of a punitive tax code, oppressive regulations, one-sided trade deals, and an economic policy that put America's interest last, and a very deep last at that. I knew that if we lifted these burdens from our economy and unleashed our people to pursue their ambitions and realize their limitless potential, then economic prosperity would come thundering back to our country at a record speed. That's what's happening. Today, I'm proud to stand before you as President of the United States to report that we have delivered on our promises and exceeded our expectations by a very wide margin. We have ended. Thank you. I was waiting for that. Thank you. I was waiting for that. I almost didn't get it. We have ended the war on American workers. We have stopped the assault on American industry. And we have launched an economic boom, the likes of which we have never seen before. I did this despite a near-record number of rate increases and quantitative tightening by the Federal Reserve since I won the election. 8 increases in total, which were, in my opinion, far too fast an increase and far too slow a decrease. Because remember, we are actively competing with nations who openly cut interest rates so that now many are actually getting paid when they pay off their loan, known as negative interest. Who ever heard of such a thing? Give me some of that. Give me some of that money. I want some of that money. Our Federal Reserve doesn't let us do it. I don't say, thank you. The smart people are clapping. Only the smart people are clapping. I don't say that's good for the world. I'm not president of the world. I'm president of our country. But we are competing against these other countries nonetheless, and the Federal Reserve doesn't let us play at that game. It puts us at a competitive disadvantage to other countries. Yet in the face of this reality, our economic policies have ushered in an unprecedented tide of prosperity surging all throughout the nation. We're paying interest. By other comparisons, we're paying actually high interest. We should be paying by far the lowest interest, and yet we're doing better than any nation by far on earth. The extraordinary numbers tell the story. Back in 2016, before I took office, the Congressional Budget Office projected that fewer than 2 million jobs would be created by this time in 2019. Instead, my administration has created nearly 7 million jobs and going up rapidly. We beat predictions. Thank you. We beat predictions by more than 3 times the highest estimate that I saw during the campaign. Nobody thought it was even possible to get close to a 7 million number. 2 million was maxed out if you were lucky and if you did a great job. Unemployment has recently achieved the lowest rate in 51 years. African American unemployment, Hispanic American unemployment, and Asian American unemployment have all reached the lowest rates in history. Women's unemployment, the best numbers in 71 years. We expect that number of 71 years, which isn't good compared to the other numbers, is it? But women also will soon be historic, we think. Blue-collar jobs are leading the way in our middle-class boom. We've added 25,000 mining jobs, 128,000 energy jobs, 1.2 million manufacturing and construction jobs, and manufacturing was supposed to be dead in our country. You would need, according to a past administration representative, at the highest level of that past administration, you would need a magic wand to bring back manufacturing jobs. Well, we brought them back, and we brought them back to over 600,000 manufacturing jobs as of today. And those are very important jobs. Nearly 7 million people have been lifted off, very importantly, food stamps. 7 million people off of food stamps. And we're getting Americans off of welfare and back into the workforce. Nearly 2.5 million Americans have risen out of poverty. That's a record. The rate of African American and Hispanic American families in poverty has plummeted to the lowest level ever recorded by far. Most of you people wouldn't know these numbers because most of you aren't very active in the market. But since my election, the S&P 500 is up over 45%, the Dow Jones is up over 50%, and the NASDAQ is up 60%, slightly more. And if we had a Federal Reserve that worked with us, you could have added another 25% to each one of those numbers. I guarantee you that. That doesn't happen. But we all make mistakes, don't we? Not too often. We do make them on occasion. American markets have vastly outpaced the rest of the world. This exceptional growth is boosting 401ks, pensions, and college savings accounts for millions and millions of hardworking families. You hear so much about inequality and all of the differences and all of the problems. The single biggest benefactors of what we've done are middle-class workers and low-income families. It's been amazing, actually. Altogether, we've added nearly $10 trillion of new value to our economy. That's in a short period of time. Remember, I only use numbers from the time of the election because I can't go to January 20th. It's not fair. We picked up tremendous stock market and economic numbers. They actually went wild the day after I won. I think that should be attributed to us, not attributed to somebody else, because it would have gone in the opposite direction. It would have gone in the opposite direction had the other result taken place, which fortunately it didn't. Last year, GDP growth matched the fastest rate in more than a decade. And it was the best of the G7 countries by far, by far. Perhaps most importantly, after years of stagnation and decline, American wages, salaries, and incomes are rising very fast. Median household income is now at the highest level in the history of our country. The average median income under President Bush rose only $400 over an 8-year period. Under President Obama, it rose $975 over an 8-year period. And under my administration, it rose $5,000 over slightly more than just 2.5 years. That's a big difference. And if you remember, President Obama was paying 0% interest for a long period of time, while we're paying a much higher rate of interest. But in addition to the $5,000, we have to add $2,200 for the tax cuts, average tax cuts, and $2,000 to $3,000 for regulatory and energy cuts. So that would be a total of almost $10,000 versus $400 and versus $975. So that's something. So you have over 8 years, you have $400. Over 8 years, you have $975. Over 2.5 years, we're almost up to 3, but this was done and calculated only as of 2.5, and it's only gone up since then. We're at almost $10,000. So our consumers, because of this, are in the best shape probably in the history of our country, and I think it's going to be very long-lasting, very, very long-lasting. This also allows me the latitude and timing to take some of the horrible, incompetent, just terrible trade deals that have been made over the years and make them great. It's like make America great again, make the trade deals great. I don't know if I can use the word again. Make them great, period, because I don't think they were ever any good. Haven't seen it. We were great, and then we weren't so great, but we're great again. And by the way, on jobs, just now, I'm glad this is today, because just now, they just announced we have the highest number of people working in our country, in the history of our country, almost 160 million people. We've never been close to that number. So we've achieved this stunning turnaround because we've adopted a new economic policy that finally puts America first. As president, I understand and embrace the fact that the world is a place of fierce competition. We're competing against other nations for jobs and industry growth and prosperity. Factories and businesses will always find a home. It's up to us to decide whether that home will be in a foreign country or right here in our country, our beloved USA, and that's where we want them to stay and be and move to. If we want our families and communities to prosper, America must be the best place on earth to work, invest, innovate, build, pursue a career, hone a craft, or start a business. We want companies to move to America, stay in America, and hire American workers. My mission is to put our country on the very best footing to thrive, excel, compete, and to win. For many years, our leaders in Washington did the exact opposite. They imposed the highest corporate tax rates in the developed world, so high that people couldn't even understand what they were doing, and they would leave. Very, very smart executives didn't want to leave, but they would leave, sending our jobs and everything else all aflutter. They waged an unethical regulatory assault on the American people. They tried to shut down American energy, and by the way, they're still trying. You want to see energy shut down? Take a look at what I'm competing against on the other side. I don't think they even believe in energy. So far, I haven't found any form of energy that's acceptable to them. I think they think the factories are just going to work without energy, don't they? They don't have a clue, these people, but I don't want to mention it yet. I want to wait a little bit longer. Let them go a little bit further so they can't take it back. Because as a campaign, I like it. I like it very much. Let them keep talking. Every time they talk, I say, boy, this looks like it might be easier than I anticipated. They passed the disastrous trade deals that encouraged the shuttering of American plants and the offshoring of American jobs by the millions. In short, the failed political class sold out American workers, sold out American prosperity, and sold out the American dream. This was the alarming situation I was elected to end. And ending it's never that easy. You see that. You do have people that want to keep it going that way, but they're losing, and they're losing now rapidly and fast. Those days are gone, and we're not going back. As you know, one of the key insights of economics is the power of incentives. Unlike past leaders, my goal is to ensure that this power works for America's favor and for America's workers and for America's companies. We want the incentives created by our tax, trade, regulatory, and energy policies to be pro-growth, pro-worker, and 100% pro-American, and more is yet to come. If we take back the House in 2020 and retain the Senate and the White House, you will see things that even this room, and you've experienced a lot of great times over the last 2.5 years, but even you will be surprised to see. We have tremendous economic potential. We have tremendous potential. We have tremendous economic potential. At the heart of our economic revival is the biggest tax cut and reforms in American history. We provided massive relief for working families, saving $2,000 a year for a typical family of 4. To bring jobs back, we lowered our business tax rate from the highest tax rate in the developed world down to a very competitive number, not quite the lowest, but getting close. And we may even be able to get there one day, in the not too distant future.
All right, folks, just give me 1 second here. I guess the signal went out. Just give me a second here. I'll put it up on your screen in a second.
Many of the great senators that we do work with, and frankly, Congress, so we passed something that nobody thought was possible to get passed, and nobody thought it could ever work the way it is. Capital gains on long-term investments are now taxed in an opportunity zone at 0, and money is flooding in. Investment is pouring into these long-neglected communities. The government wasn't putting money in, nobody was, they were dying. And now tremendous, they call it neighborhood push. It's incredible what's happening. It's not spoken of by the fake news media, but they should speak about it, because I will tell you, it's one of the great successes that we've all had. And it's employing tremendous numbers of people, and you have communities that were down and totally out, and they're reviving like nobody's ever seen. Opportunity zones, remember those 2 words. We believe in no American left behind, and we understand the enormous power of investment, capital, and opportunity to revitalize communities and bring hope where it is needed the most. to liberate our economy. My administration launched the biggest, boldest, and most ambitious campaign to reduce regulation. Nobody has ever come close. No administration has ever come close. In 2.5 years, we've done far more than any other administration, whether it was 4 years, 8 years, or in one case, more than 8 years. Nobody's come close to doing what we've done with regulations. And I happen to think, as great as the tax cut was, the largest in our history, I really happen to think that the regulation cuts may have had an even bigger impact on the economy, and it was quicker because we were able to do them very early in the administration, earlier than the tax cuts. Within days of taking office, I issued an executive order to end the outstanding, horrible federal intrusions that you saw. It was an onslaught into business, into people's lives, and it was really done by unelected bureaucrats. They were really accountable, and nobody held them accountable. And sometimes it's not pleasant to hold them accountable, but I do it. I do it. And we had no choice because we were going nowhere fast. My order required that for every one new regulation, 2 old regulations must be eliminated. But instead of 2 for 1, we have now eliminated 9 for 1, and we think that within the next 6 months, it will be close to 20 for 1 instead of 2 for 1. And it sounds like a lot, but you have no idea when you look at the piles and piles and piles of regulation on each one of our great secretaries. We have some great people working here. But you'd go into rooms that are half the size of this, and they would literally be stacked to the ceiling with regulations. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And we have actually, I think, a fairly long way to go. We need regulation, but it has to be smart regulation. Highways were taking 20 years to get built, to get approved. You'd put in an application, 21 years later, they'd reject it. It would cost many, many times more, 25, 30, 40 times more. But they were taking 20 years. We're trying to get that down to 1. And it may get rejected, and that's okay. But you haven't spent 20 years on environmental impact statements in order to build a simple highway or roadway that's desperately needed. So we have it down close to 1 year. We want to hit the 1-year number. And if it doesn't work, we're going to reject it, but it's going to be rejected fast, swiftly. But mostly it's not going to be rejected. We ended the ridiculous Waters of the United States rule. What a beautiful name. The name was beautiful. The act was a disaster. It didn't allow you to do anything. When I signed it, I said, you know, Waters of the United States, what could be a more beautiful title? I'm going to get killed when I signed this. To kill it. I had to kill it. It made land development prohibitive. It made impossible situations for farmers, for everybody. And I had 35 people in my office, farmers and builders and ranchers and others. Strong people, very strong men and women, and almost all of them were crying. They said, you've given our life back. These laws were horrible. They took away everything. You would have a puddle in your land, and they would call it, you were under river control, you were under lake control for what is called a puddle. You couldn't get anywhere near it. And if you did, you'd literally be arrested. We're streamlining approvals for critical infrastructure. Our regulatory roadblock is also leading to major price reductions in healthcare and prescription drugs. We've gotten the prescription drugs down. First time in 53 years that prescription drug prices have gone down. And if we had help from the Democrats, which we do not have, you possibly have noticed that, we would be able to cut prescription drugs by 30, 40, and 50%. I've told some of the governors, Ron DeSantis in Florida, go buy them from other countries. I'm okay with it. I'm going to give them an executive order because Canada and other countries sell the exact same drug from the exact same factory for sometimes 50, 60, and 70% less than we do. And rather than going through the political charade and all of the things where the middleman, I hope we don't have any middlemen in here because somebody's not going to like me too much. We have a middleman. Any middlemen? I think they have to be the richest people in the world if you want to know the truth. They make far more than the drug companies in most cases. But I said, buy it from other countries. You go out to other countries, and what's happening already is the companies are coming back and they want to make great deals, because now I'm giving the right to governors to go to Canada, go to England, go all over Europe, where the prices are so much less, because we were forced to pay for all research and development, and they didn't pick up any of the costs. Ridiculous rules, so unfair to our country. I said, buy them from other countries and pass along the savings. The savings will be staggering, and we're starting that program. But as soon as we start that program, watch what happens with the drug prices. They'll come down over here. Because it's the same companies that make the drugs. It's the exact same companies, hard to believe. Altogether, our regulatory cuts, as mentioned, save American households thousands and thousands of dollars every year. The foundation of American liberty and prosperity has always been the rule of law. Throughout history, economies have failed when the rule of law is abandoned. That's why we must protect the constitutional rule of law in our country at all costs. So important. We've got some lawless people in some very high positions. They're lawless. For this reason, we have now appointed, as of today, 161 and fully approved brand new federal judges, Court of Appeals judges, to interpret our Constitution as written. That will soon be 182 judges, and as you know, 2 Supreme Court justices who are great gentlemen, both fully in and making some very big decisions even today as we speak. The 161, 162 that we have now will be at 182 within 2 months, and then we normalize, meaning we go through the normal system. When I came into office, one of the first things I said was, how many federal judges do I have to appoint? Because I always heard it was the single most important thing a president can do, federal judges and Supreme Court justices. They said, sir, you have 142. I said, what? Because I was always told you would never have any. Maybe you'd have 1 or 2, maybe 3 if the previous president wasn't doing a good job. But they said, you have 142. I said, you have to be kidding. And we did. We had 142, and we've added to that through different things. And we will be at 182. That will be a record. Nobody's ever done that before. It was shocking. But I just want to say thank you very much, President Obama. We appreciate it very much for the 142. Thank you. I'm sure his party is thrilled with him, but if they aren't, they won't say anything. Don't worry about it. Thanks to these and other policies, last year the World Economic Forum recognized the United States as the globe's most competitive economy. We've put it back into this position where we are competitive like no other nation. To fuel our economic boom, we are boldly pursuing American energy independence. And you see that in the Middle East, where ships are at great danger, and they keep saying, what happened to the American ships? They don't see too many American ships over there anymore. Do you notice that? We stopped the radical crusade to dismantle U.S. energy production and empower rogue regimes. We withdrew from the one-sided, horrible, economically unfair, close your businesses down within 3 years, don't frack, don't drill, we don't want any energy, the horrible Paris Climate Accord that killed American jobs and shielded foreign polluters. It was a disaster for this country. Ask them, how are they doing in Paris with your Paris Accord? Not too good. And I will tell you, when I signed, that was another one. Clean waters of the United States, well, the Paris Accord too. And I said, this is going to take guts. I just closed my eyes and I signed it. I got 1 day of a big hit from some of the radical left newspapers, and then after that, everybody thanks me. They thank me so profusely. You're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars of destruction would have been done to our country with the Paris Climate Accord. And it is so unfair. It doesn't kick in for China until 2030. Russia goes back into the 1990s, where the base year was the dirtiest year ever in the world. India, we are supposed to pay them money because they're a developing nation. I said, we're a developing nation too. Why aren't we? Under the WTO, China is called a developing nation. So we wrote him a letter recently. Larry knows it. I'm not sure Larry liked the idea too much, but he went along with it. We wrote him a very tough letter, Larry, and we said, what? Oh, Larry wrote it. He said, oh, well, you hopped on that bandwagon quickly, didn't you? That's okay. But we wrote him a letter, and we said much more strongly than the letter that not fair to have China as a developing nation. One of the reasons they've taken advantage of us is because of that, and we're considered the big fat cow, and no longer. We have a lot of things to work out. And I will say this, because they know that I'm very tentative on the WTO, we're winning cases for the first time. We just won a $7.5 billion case. We never won cases. They'd rule against us because they said, hey, don't worry about the United States. They're the stupid people. Don't worry, rule against them. Keep rule. We had case after case. Now we're winning cases because they really think that I'll do something very powerful, which we have the right to do. And they're right when they think that way. And we're winning a lot of cases at the WTO level that we never even would have thought of winning before. America is now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas on the entire planet Earth. Net energy imports. Net energy imports, this is so great, set a historic low. It's a 58-year low, but that's only because they only go back 58 years, meaning I assume if it's low now, it's lower than it used to be, unless something happened that's very strange back then. But it's at a historic low. We are now a net exporter of natural gas, and we recently became a net exporter of crude oil and petroleum products for the first time in our country's history. It's a big thing. According to the Council of Economic Advisors, the astonishing increase in production made possible by the shale revolution saves Americans $2,500 for a family of 4 in lowering electric bills and prices at the pump. And the number is actually now even higher than that. My administration is also restoring the principle that to be a strong nation, America must be a manufacturing nation. These are great jobs. These are brilliant, great people that know how to manufacture. These people were underappreciated and undertaken care of, but we take care of them. We cherish them. Past leaders wrote off American manufacturing as dead, but their policies were the ones that were actually killing it. We killed manufacturing. That's why we were losing all those jobs, because we made it impossible to manufacture. We've opened it all up. After losing, and this is a number that's hard to believe, and I've been saying it for 3 years, and I know it's right because the fake news has never corrected me. If it was wrong, it would have been headlines. Trump made a mistake. But they can't say it. After losing 60,000, can you believe that, factories under the previous 2 administrations, America is now gaining over 10,000. But they can't say it. After losing 60,000, can you believe that, factories under the previous 2 administrations, America is now gaining over 10,000 brand new, beautiful factories, and many, many more than that want to come back in, because under my administration, we're producing jobs and incentives for these companies to come back. I'm calling, as an example, Prime Minister Abe of Japan. I say, Mr. Prime Minister Shinzo, we have a tremendous problem. We have big deficits with your country. You got to start building plants. He's building many, many car plants now in the United States that he would have never built here if you didn't have this kind of a president. And he's very happy to be doing it. But they're all coming back to the United States. They want to be where the action is. Very simple. They want to be where the action is. This is where the action is. There's nobody close. There's no country close. When I meet with the leaders of countries as they come in, kings and queens and prime ministers and presidents and dictators, I meet them all. Anybody wants to come in. Dictators, it's okay. Come on in. Whatever's good for the United States. We want to help our people. But the first thing they say to me almost always, congratulations on your economy. They all say it, congratulations. It's incredible what's happened to your country. It's incredible what's happened to your economy. First thing they say in almost every instance. But central to this comeback is a series of bold initiatives to reform a broken system of international trade. We want thriving commerce with as many countries as possible, but trade must be fair, and to me it must be my favorite word, reciprocal. It's not reciprocal. We're getting it to be much more reciprocal. The American market is the most valuable and coveted market anywhere in the world. Those who want access must play by the rules, and they have to respect our game and our laws, and they have to treat our workers and businesses fairly, not the way they've been treating them over the last 25 years. America will not be taken advantage of anymore. Many countries charge us extraordinarily high tariffs or create impossible trade barriers. Impossible. And I'll be honest, European Union, very, very difficult. The barriers they have up are terrible. Terrible. In many ways, worse than China. We're working on legislation known as the United States Reciprocal Trade Act, meaning quite simply, what's good for them is good for us. They want to charge us, we charge them. It's a very simple thing. Even people that aren't well-versed in what we all do say, I went to a couple of senators, went to Lindsey Graham. I said, Lindsey, let me ask you, what do you think of that? They're charging us 100%, we'll charge them. That makes sense to me. Really does make sense to everybody, because it's very unfair the way we're treated by certain countries. There are certain countries that the average tariff is over 100%, and we charge them nothing. And then they call it fair trade. That's not fair trade. That's stupid trade. Of course, this will be subject to regaining the House to be able to do these things. Nowhere has the change in U.S. strategy been more vital or dramatic than in our dealings with respect to China. Before my election, Washington politicians stood by and did nothing while China ransacked our companies, stole our intellectual property, subsidized their industries at the expense of ours, and dumped their products in a deliberate strategy to close American factories all across our land. For many years, Americans, leaders have just sat back. Maybe they didn't understand what was going on. It's impossible to believe that. But they just let it happen. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And now we've changed it. It's changed a lot. I'm sure you haven't noticed, but it's changed a lot. In particular, since China's entrance into the World Trade Organization in 2001, no one has manipulated numbers better or taken advantage of the United States more. And I won't use this word, cheated. I will not say the word cheated. But nobody's cheated better than China, but I will not say that. We'll say that off the record, okay? And there's only about 600 cameras back there. In fact, that is a big group up there. Good, I hope you use it, because it's true. And they understand it's true. And I don't blame China, by the way. I blame our leaders, because we should have been doing what they were doing. They did it to us. We didn't do it to them. We were defenseless. We had no leadership. This is for a long time. This is long beyond the Obama administration. So I don't blame them. I said this to President Xi. I was making a big speech in China. I had 5,000 people in front of me, and I was talking about how bad China was. And I said, this is not going over well. I was in Beijing, this massive hall, and I looked down at President Xi. He was sitting right where Larry is. He was not as imposing a figure as Larry Kudlow, but he was quite imposing. And I said, you know, I think he's getting very angry. And then I realized, how do we save this? This is going to be a disastrous afternoon. And I said, but I don't blame China. I blame our leaders. And then I realized it's true. I blame our leaders for allowing it to happen. I've told that to you and many people many times. But the theft of American jobs and American wealth is over. They understand that. My administration has taken the toughest ever action to confront China's trade abuses. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars in tariffs that China is paying for. We're not paying. China is paying because they're devaluing their currency to such an extent, and they're pouring tremendous amounts of cash into their system. They're having the worst year in more than 57 years, more than half a century. Their supply chains are cracking very badly, and they are dying to make a deal. We're the ones that are deciding whether or not we want to make a deal. We're close. A significant phase one trade deal with China could happen soon. But we will only accept a deal if it's good for the United States and our workers and our great companies, because we've been hit very hard. We'd have deficits for many years, go back many years, $500 billion a year, not million. $500 million a year is a lot. $500 billion a year trade deficits with China. And we have them with many other countries, just not nearly as large. China probably makes up almost 60% of our deficits. We also renegotiated the last administration's failed trade agreement with South Korea. It's a terrible agreement. Our new agreement doubles the number of American cars that can be sold to South Korea under the U.S. standards, and it keeps America's 25% import tax, known as the chicken tax on small trucks, which was all ready to disappear. It was going to disappear. The deal from the previous administration was projected by them to add 250,000 jobs, and they were right. It did add 250,000 jobs. Unfortunately, the jobs went to South Korea, not to the United States. That's what we got stuck with. We also struck a deal, which is historic, with Japan. It's just partial, because we're having very tough negotiations and strong negotiations with Japan to substantially reduce barriers for American agriculture and facilitate $40 billion in digital trade and agricultural purchases. That deal was signed. And it's a great deal, but it's only phase one of the Japan deal, too. A lot of these leaders don't like me too much, folks. When you hear that I'm not so popular in various countries, please don't accept that as, gee, he doesn't have a good personality. Just realize what I'm trying to do for you. It's about time, okay? Please. They recently came out with a poll that President Obama is much more popular in Germany than I am. I said, guess what? He should be. He should be. The day I'm more popular than him, you know I'm not doing my job. Let's put it that way. Because we're treated very badly by countries. They take advantage of us, and they have for many, many years. It's hard to break that cycle. But we're breaking it, and we're getting along with them, believe it or not. We're actually, I think they respect us far more today than they ever have, if you want to know the truth. We're replacing one of the worst trade deals ever in history, NAFTA, with the brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, a historic win for American farmers, energy producers, and manufacturers. And the reason it's such a good deal for us is I said, listen, if you don't sign this deal, we're going to charge you tariffs on your product coming into the United States, including all of those cars that are now manufactured in Mexico. 30% of our business was lost over the last 20 years, went to Mexico. I said, so if you don't sign it, so it's good agreement, we're going to just charge you tariffs, and they signed everything we wanted. The USMCA will create up to 500,000 American jobs and add at least 1.2% more to our total GDP, and it should be much higher than that. Yet Democrats in Washington would rather pursue outrageous hoaxes and delusional witch hunts, which are going absolutely nowhere, don't worry about it, than pass the USMCA and deliver real stuff for the American workers. It's a great bill. USMCA had put pressure on the Democrats. There's tremendous pressure already. And most of them, if you had a vote today, I think most of them would actually vote for it. But Nancy Pelosi, nervous Nancy, has to put it out there and sign. And if she doesn't, she's doing her party a tremendous disservice, and she's doing this country a tremendous disservice. As we create millions of new jobs, we are also transforming lives. Under the last administration, nearly 1.8 million Americans in their prime working years simply gave up. They gave up looking for work altogether and dropped out of the labor force. Under my administration, 2 million prime-age Americans have come off the sidelines already, people that we thought maybe would never work again, and they fully rejoined the labor force, something we're very proud of. And this includes a group that was having a hard time from the day of our founders, the day they signed. These people have had a hard time. They're former inmates, people that went to jail, who are getting a fresh start thanks to the landmark criminal justice reform bill that I signed into law, but maybe equally so because the economy is so good. They're coming out of jail now and they're getting jobs, and I will tell you, the people that have been hiring them, and I get reports, they cannot believe how good they've been, and obviously not in all cases. But it's incredible. First time they've ever had an opportunity. They get out of jail, and they end up with a great job, and they cherish the job more than you would, more than I would. They can't believe what happened to them. And they're doing a phenomenal job. First time it's ever happened in the history of our country. It's really terrific. When we say hire American, we mean hire all Americans. By focusing on the needs of people, not the desires of government, we're helping our citizens realize their ambitions and pursue rewarding careers. Over 1.1 million fewer Americans are now forced to rely on part-time work today than when I was elected. That's a tremendous number. People are working 2 jobs and 3 jobs and making less money than they made 21 years ago. That was the stat. A record number of Americans are quitting the job that they have to take a job that they like even better. They like the job better. They like getting up in the morning, like we all do. They like going to work. And they have something that they can do, and they're getting paid more money for it, which is something that's probably never happened before in this country to the extent it's happened now. This increased competition is driving up wages for blue-collar workers who are the biggest beneficiaries of what we're talking about and all the things that I'm mentioning today. Real weekly wages for the lowest paid earners have grown more in the first 3 years of my administration than in the entire decade before my election, and decade and much more than that. Since the election, real wages have gone up 3.2% for the median American worker, but for the bottom income group, real wages are soaring, a number that's never happened before, 9%. And that means you might make a couple of bucks less in your companies. You know what? That's okay. That's okay. This is a great thing for our country. When you talk about equality, this is a great thing for our country. Our tight labor market is helping them the most. Yet Democrats in Washington want to erase these gains through an extreme policy of open borders, flooding the labor market and driving down incomes for the poorest Americans and driving crime right through the roof. They want nothing to do with looking at the people that are coming in. And some very, very bad people are trying to get in. But we're building the wall. It's going up rapidly. We have tremendous help from Mexico. Despite what you read, it was a terrible thing that you read over the last period of a few days, but also over the last years. But they have 27,000 soldiers on our border now, protecting us from people coming into our country. And because of that, I'm not tariffing Mexican goods. So it works out well for everyone. But we have 27,000 Mexican soldiers, and they play by different rules than our people. If our people speak rudely to a person coming in, it means they get the electric chair. It's a very unfair situation. Our border Our border is so, our laws are so bad, our immigration laws. It's so sad. We have what's called loopholes, many loopholes. I could fix them in 15 minutes, but the Democrats don't want to fix them. For two reasons. They don't want to give us a win. And honestly, I think they maybe just don't care. And it would solve all of the problems, and you wouldn't need Mexico's help. But we want to thank Mexico. We want to thank the president. And I've likewise offered a lot of help because they have a tremendous problem with the cartels in their country, a problem like nobody would believe, where the cartels are almost ruling a country. And I am offering to the president of Mexico the ultimate hand. And he and I have a very good relationship. And let's ultimately see what happens. But those cartels are horrible, what they're doing. You see it every day. All you have to do is turn on the news. I want people to come to our country, but they must come in legally, and they must come through a system of merit. We now know all of our obligations. Our moral obligation is to the American workers, and we're committed to helping them climb that great ladder of success. To equip them with the skills they need, we launched the Pledge to America's Workers. 367 private sector partners are providing more than 14 million skills and career training opportunities for U.S. workers. And I have to say, I'm very proud of her. My daughter, Ivanka, that's all she wants to talk about. I say, Ivanka, can we please talk about something else? No, Dad. I met today with Walmart. They're taking 1 million people. She wants to make these people have great lives. And when she started this 2.5 years ago, her goal was 500,000 jobs. She's now created 14 million jobs, and they're being trained by these great companies, the greatest companies in the world, because the government can't train them. It's a great thing. So Jared's here, and you'll thank Ivanka. She's done an amazing job. 14 million from 500,000. We're at 14 million and going up. Today, the world is witnessing the is a better place because of it also. But everything that we've achieved is under threat from the left-wing ideology that demands absolute conformity, relentless regulation, and a top-down control of the entire U.S. economy. Far-left politicians in our nation's capital want a massive government takeover of health care. They want to give government bureaucrats domination over every aspect of your business and your life. They want to eliminate American oil and natural gas. They want to enlist us in global projects designed to redistribute American wealth and kill American jobs all over our nation. Washington's Democrats and their radical agenda of socialism would demolish our economy, reinstate the avalanche of regulations that have already ended, decimate the middle class, and totally bankrupt our nation. As long as I'm president, America will never be a socialist country. We are reawakening the majestic spirit of enterprise and exploration, discovery, and all of the other things that we need to create that exceptional character that our nation is developing now more than at any time in the past. We're a nation of unbridled pioneers and adventurers and risk takers. We inherit the legacy of courageous, free, and independent souls who ventured across oceans, braved the wilderness, settled the frontiers, tamed the Wild West, and raised up towering cities of concrete, iron, and steel. Our American ancestors produced miracles of science, lost so many lives, but launched revolutions in technology, created groundbreaking new industries, built the railroads that linked our cities, fashioned the skyscrapers that touched the clouds, and gave us the most prosperous nation to ever exist on the face of the earth. This is our American heritage. This is who we are. This is who we will forever be. We believe in the dignity of work and the nobility of each and every American worker. We believe the future is forged in the mind of the American inventor, the soul of the American craftsman, the heart of the American entrepreneur, and the faith of the American investor. We know that there is nothing we cannot achieve as one team, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. With everyone here today and millions of patriots across our land, we are making America stronger, prouder, and greater than ever before. And ladies and gentlemen, the best is yet to come. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us and choosing us as your stream of choice. President Trump at the New York Economic Club. President Trump also is going to be answering some questions, but that is going to have to be uploaded at a later time due to copyright issues and stuff like that. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. If you missed the speech, we'll be uploading it onto the channel in just a few moments. If you're new to the channel, we encourage you to subscribe and click the notification bell. Thank you so much, folks.